pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Public input. Is there anybody wishing to speak to the council? I'll ask again. It's public input. Does anybody wish to speak? Moving on. Review and approve the council agenda. We need a motion to approve the council agenda.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Consent agenda items. A, approve 2025 business license renewal. B, approve ADA transition plan. C, approve 2024 street improvement, phase 1, final payment and change order number 2. D, approve 2023 street improvements, change order 1, authorize final payment. Consent agenda item E, approve Belclair Drive culvert final payment. F, approve SEH design contract. G, approve public safety design agreement with SEH. H, approve Mr. Puff tobacco license. I, approve certificate of compliance equity investments LLP.
I'd like to pull F.
F?
F, yep.
Anybody else?
I'll make a motion that we approve A through I, less F.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Mike seconds. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Regular agenda items. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, sorry. Mike F.
Dave already knows. I talked to Dave. He's got some wrong addresses on one of the improvements out on 24th Avenue.
Second Avenue versus Second Street. I
It
have.
should
Oh,
be Second
yeah.
Street instead
Oh,
of Second
good
Avenue
call,
South.
good catch,
Yep,
yeah,
that was a good catch.
yeah.
I just told him that'd be a heck of a project all the way from there.
That'd be a stretch.
It cost us way more money than we could afford. So that would be it. I'll approve it with the change.
Okay. We have a second.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Under regular agenda items, interim use permit, solar electric generating facility, 2992 County Road 137. Assume John.
Yep. Mr. Tyson, council members, folks in the audience, this one has come back around. You may recall the council reviewed and approved a variance or a series of variances related to this project in late 2023. This is the solar facility, which is an interim use permit in that A1 Ag District, submitted by Brendan Dillon, Kramer Garden LLC on behalf and with permission of Tom and Susie Ardolph, the property owners. This is a 4 megawatt facility that will be located primarily in the eastern and central area of property owned by the Ardolphs, just north of their residential property at 2992 County Road 137. Again, to the north of their home and on the eastern side of County Road 137 there. At the time of the variance approvals in late 2023, the applicants took feedback received over the course of a handful of planning commission meetings and including from neighboring property owners and the planning commission in establishing a project footprint that was ultimately approved by the city council. The current proposed site plan falls within that approved established footprint, with the only notation being that the setbacks to the neighboring properties in a couple instances have actually been reduced in several areas throughout the site. The developers were able to draft a plan that pulled those in a little bit and reconfigure the site a little bit to make better use of the property and to alleviate a little bit of the concern that some of the property owners had, even though they were approved for a larger footprint. A comparison of the project footprint with the variances was attached for review, and the current proposed footprint was overlaid in blue. I would note that the setback variances pertain only to the actual solar panels themselves. Fencing and landscaping are exempted from setback requirements. Those would be permissible really anywhere without any special permission from the city. So when we look at the setbacks, we're looking from the actual panel setup. The applicants requested a project duration and an interim use permit request for a total of 35 years. Staff held discussion with the applicants and advising that the requested term may be exceptionally long as an initial approval, given that area is set up as a delineated growth corridor for the city, and the intent of interim use permits was to allow for some limited uses for the property until they are more realistically ready for development. I would recommend, and I'm recommending an initial term of 25 years, after which an extension could be considered by a future planning commission and city council if the surrounding area has not yet been developed to a significant degree at their determination. The solar arrays and the associated equipment have a useful life of approximately 35 years, which was partially the reason, some of the reason for the request at that 35-year term. I would note that of the other handful of solar facilities we have, 25 years has been the norm thus far for us. The Planning Commission did concur with the staff recommendation for a timeline of 25 years after hearing testimony requesting that longer 35-year timeline from the applicants and upon discussion with staff. The facility itself would consist of approximately 9,000 solar panels with a total footprint of 19.7 acres of property. The rack systems are single axis, so tilt back and forth, have a height of approximately 10 feet. The proposed layout would be subject to engineering and final Excel program approval, and would change, could potentially change very slightly prior to construction, but would be subject to review and approval by both City of Way Park staff and potentially the Sauk River Watershed District, as well as Stearns County for any wetland aspects. There's entirety of the property would be fenced with security fencing, and there's some level of landscaping consisting of arborvitae tree plantings and New Jersey tree shrubs for areas nearest some of the adjacent properties and along identified viewshed properties, or excuse me, viewshed areas from 137. Just given the site, the way it's configured, much of it's surrounded by existing old growth wooded areas. Planting would be redundant and unnecessary there. Our ordinance allows for omission of landscaping in that area at city discretion. But upon discussion with Planning Commission, we did build in a condition that if anything happened, either through willful taking of any of those trees or any reason they go down in a storm or something, there may be a need to replace with some landscaping at some point if deemed necessary. The applicants have supplied all the necessary data and documentation. No concerns were related to glare or environmental impacts. The applicants went above and beyond our standards in consideration of any wildlife impacts, which no concerns were identified. They've been coordinating with Stearns County staff regarding the wetland impacts or wetland aspects, and the project is deemed feasible, but they'll need to continue coordination with the county. Our staff hasn't identified any concerns with the technical or structural aspects at this time, although if approved, they would need to obtain the standard permitting at such time as they may begin construction. Segueing from that a little bit, typically in ordinance, initial and interim use permits are valid for a year from the date of issuance. These sort of projects are a little bit different animal, and just given the depth and the length of the timelines that's associated with them and their coordination with Excel and kind of the new timelines associated with the major components of manufacturing and delivery. The applicants are requesting an allowance of 2.5 years to begin construction. I would be supportive of this. Those factors are outside the applicant's control or influence, and it would save unnecessary time of city staff and appointed and elected officials for further review, provided no major changes would be proposed. The Planning Commission did review this request at their October 8th meeting and held a public hearing. There was a handful of questions and comments received and responded to by staff and applicants. Most folks were content with the layout and believe most of the issues or concerns have been ironed out during the variance process the year prior, so everything went fairly smoothly. Planning Commission did recommend approval of the request with the conditions as proposed by staff and included within the approving resolution that I am recommending approval for tonight. I won't go through line by line just due to the length of them, but basically recommending a timeline of 25 years for the active operation. That factors in the couple years for arrangements for the interconnection and finalizes an end date there. We would need a bond or financial guarantee in the amount of $383,000. That's based on our current solar ordinance, 125% of the estimated decommissioning amount, that we hang on to that just to be sure it's decommissioned according to plan. And they have no issues with that. And then we tied in some language regarding the existing trees and perimeters, that if anything happens to them, we'll coordinate with the property owners or the leaseholder at that time and get those buttoned up if they need to be. So I would recommend adoption of the attached resolution, and we can open it up for any questions.
Council, questions?
Yeah, just like when you gave the variance last time, I hope you understand that when you give these variances, the League of Minnesota Cities had a class on this type of stuff and recommend that you don't give these types of variances because of the fact that the next person that comes in, you're going to have to give the same thing to. Either that or you're going to open up the doors for a possible lawsuit against the city. That was strongly recommended by the League of Minnesota Cities to watch these types of variances and things. So, and there was a moratorium on this at one time until the new ordinance went into effect, and now you already broke it. So, virtually makes that ordinance.
Well, it hasn't
Insufficient.
been broken yet. Ultimately,
No,
that's the
they
city
followed
council's
it.
that's the city
Well, you
council's
gave a
decision.
variance to the distancing from.
That's correct, but it still has to go through
That's not
interviews.
the
first.
issue
So that's
tonight, though.
okay.
That was a discussion that happened already, and the
last
council's
meeting.
already made that decision.
Right, so I'm just reiterating the fact of what the League of Minnesota Cities is telling cities to be careful of.
Right, but I
So-
want to make sure that we're clarifying that the action tonight is for the interim use permit.
I know it's too late.
Well, I'll make a motion that we approve the interim use permit with the conditions as listed.
We have a second.
I will second that.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Was that a no?
Nope.
All right. Regular agenda item B, request nuisance abatement removal, 212 Fifth Avenue North. John?
Yep, that's me again. Council members, this is one that it was handed off to me. As you're aware, we kind of work together now with a community service officer position in handling nuisance properties. They typically do the kind of the day-to-day, but for stuff that doesn't get enough attention or traction or doesn't get done the way it's supposed to be, that's when I get involved and we'll press a little harder. This property is a pretty bad one. It's a repeat for you. You saw it a number of years ago. We issued an abatement request that you authorized, but it was ultimately cleaned up before we had to go out there, which is great. It means we didn't have to spend the time or the resources. As you can see in the attached, it's pretty severe. Nothing has happened after a number of contacts or after a final notice posted that I drafted up and posted by PD staff a couple weeks back. So I'm requesting an abatement authorization for this property. I would note I did have contact with the property resident today. They did call, I informed them that it was gonna be public hearing tonight. They requested if they could have a couple more weeks to work on the property. I advise that we don't have a choice but to pursue the abatement because it wasn't done today by the deadline. But there will be a gap or a time that they can still get it cleaned up before we would have to go out and do anything. So if we show up and what we do is we give a date, time, and say we're gonna be here this date and time. If it's cleaned up when we get there, no harm, no foul, everybody's happy.
Right, perfect.
So that's what I'm hoping for. We'll continue to coordinate with them, but I would request the abatement authorization, in case it's needed, we get this one done and cleaned up.
All right.
I'll make a motion to approve it.
We have a second. We have a motion by Mike,
Okay,
second by.
I'll second.
I was trying to
Ken.
get the pictures, but
Yeah, I couldn't make it work right either.
No.
so.
I do have a question for you though before.
We have a motion and a second. Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
you had a mic and who was the second?
Ken.
Okay.
There's other properties on that particular side of town that really need some attention, and it's been brought to my attention by several property owners in the last month or so about what's going on over there. Is there any way, that we can try to control what's going on before it gets this bad?
That's what our CSO staff do. They do kind of knock and talks, and then they follow up with letters if they need to. Usually I get more involved now when we have to press harder and we get to this sort of state. You know, it's a case-by-case situation, so we do have to use a little bit of discretion if there's forward progress being made. You know, we don't want to get to a point like tonight where we're requesting this, because it's a lot of time and resource and city money fronted when we do these cleanups, and we have to collect it back by the abatement and by the taxes and the assessments. It's not fun, and it's a mess for us. But, I mean, if they have, or if you have specific properties that you want us to take a look at, we're happy to do that.
Well,
And
I've been
there might be
telling them to
there might be some that
call,
we
and-
miss.
And I don't know if they've called, but I know, I noticed a couple of houses also that were condemned, and the properties on those houses are just incredibly.
As far as the ordinance violations, our CSO does patrol the city as a grid. He focuses on a certain area each week, just try to get on them. Keep in mind, this particular property, we started contact back in the beginning of September, trying to work with the property owners to get it resolved. So some of those other properties that you may be told that aren't getting worked with may very well be getting worked with. They're just in a process in which they are slowly cleaning it up. In the end of the day, we are about getting them to get it cleaned up, not necessarily getting to a full, to the abatement process if we don't have to. So if you have any other addresses though, we'd be more than happy to take them and make sure we're looking at them. But I know the CSO does have an active list of properties he is currently working with to try to get them cleaned
Do
up.
we have a weed inspector yet, or is that not on?
Mayor,
It officially is the mayor, that is true.
that's official.
But that actually falls within the public works, and, yeah, those notices are going out too. A lot of these, if there are particular pieces of property that need to be addressed, my best advice would be for a resident to contact City Hall. Kelly is usually the
Well, that's
person
what I
that.
told them to do, and I
Yeah.
don't know if they've done
Yeah,
it or.
because we do, and they go out, but a lot of the weed kind of things, and just like snow removal in the wintertime, those things are done on a complaint basis, but if they're noticed, we'll go ahead and take care of them, and I think we've got a good process internally of addressing those things. It's just getting them, if there's things that people are noticing, speak up, we're happy to help and
As far-
address the problems.
Yeah, as far as for nuisances, this is a last resort for us. I mean, this is one where there's been no contact, and, you know,
Oh, I
it's just,
understand. I'm
it's
just
dead air,
asking
so
if
we
there's-
have to force the hand, but you know, typically people will have, you know, if they're willing to be decent and work with us, we'll work with them. And if, you know, that doesn't go on forever though.
Well, I'm
If
just
no,
trying
if nothing happens, then we have to push harder and harder.
Most of the complaints I got was high grass and weeds and that kind of stuff, so. And then the couple of homes that I said were condemned, and it seems like they were just forgotten about, and it was just trash. The house itself, I don't know what we can do once they're condemned like that. The one house looks like it's becoming a health hazard for the neighbors, so. You know, just little things that maybe we can jump on a little earlier and try to help before it gets out of hand and people really get mad.
If you have an address, we'd be more than happy to look into it. So,
All right.
I just tell them to call up here, that's the best thing, I mean, that's, if there's that way, it's, there's nothing I can do about it. I'm not gonna go with my lawnmower.
That'd be nice of you if you would, because I'll give you the addresses. We do have a motion and a second to approve the abatement. All those in favor signify, say aye. I should say,
Yeah, that's right.
no, I'm good enough. All those against, same sign. Motion passes. Approve the bills. Anybody's got any questions on the bills?
I make a motion to approve the bills.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Administrator update.
Work session is next Monday, the 25th at 5 PM. And then we have our two other meetings for December are the 2nd and the 16th. Coalition's fall conference is Thursday and Friday of this week. I know there's 3 attending.
Yep.
So we got, and I'll be there too. I think that's all I have for now.
All right. Is there anybody else who has something to add? Anybody? Seeing none, this meeting is adjourned at 6:52.